This last weekend was the Oscars, and I remember last week we did a story about how Arri was dominant in most of the Oscar nominations for Best Picture this year, with the exception of documentaries. When you get into documentaries, the camera that's dominant are Canon cameras, which I found very interesting. Canon cameras were used in every single documentary nominated at the Academy Awards, mostly the C300 Mark II and the Canon 5D Mark III.
What makes Canon so popular?
When you look at the lower cost of the Canon Cinema EOS platform, its ergonomic, but especially its compact design, makes it a lot of sense for documentarians who would rather shoot out in the field. Especially when you look at the Oscar winner this year for Best Documentary, Free Solo. It was about a free climber climbing sheer rock faces of mountains all around the world. And when you're the poor cameraman that has to follow him up the mountainside, it makes sense that you want to keep yourself as nimble as possible, and that's what that Cinema EOS C300 lets you do. It makes a lot of sense to me.
So Arri got the features and Canon got the documentaries.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a lot of camera news recently, so do you have something different this week for our second story?
No, I have a rather depressing story, quite frankly. It's YouTube's copyright system. Honestly, I think it's irretrievably broken, as it's now being used by blackmailers to blackmail content creators to pay them money to remove copyright strikes. YouTube content creators are complaining that they are being hit with multiple copyright strikes by phantom users who then contact them demanding money be paid to them via Bitcoin or PayPal. YouTube's appeals process also opens the creator up to further harassment, as they have to provide contact information that the blackmailer can see and exploit. And all the monetization and counter notification options are removed during the copyright claim process, so there's very little a content creator can do. They can appeal, but most of them are not comfortable in doing so.
So they're hit with a false claim for copyright infringement, and during the processing of that false claim, the YouTuber loses the ability to make money on their video.
Yeah, and the videos are just taken down, just automatically taken down.
YouTube's laboring under a host of problems recently. What's going on?
I think it's just a case of they're just too big. They're a victim of their own success, really. Since YouTube has changed their monetization policies in order to please advertisers, you know, the whole adpocalypse issue that came about last year, these channels have to work a lot harder to reach an arbitrary plateau. The plateau is 4,000 viewing hours a year, 10,000 subscribers, and 10,000 views in a year. And you have to renew that every single year in order to qualify for monetization. So smaller channels don't have to worry about a lot of stuff because they're not making any money. But those that are right on the cusp who just qualified are a prime target for these blackmailers. The bigger top YouTube channels like ABC and Jimmy Kimmel and The Tonight Show and those, they don't have to worry about that. They have concierge services through YouTube directly. They can just pick up the phone, make a call if there's a problem, and it gets handled. But these smaller guys, the guys somewhere in the middle, they just make the requirements. They're just starting to make money, and then they get hit with copyright claims by blackmailers. And YouTube is very hesitant to help because they don't want to come down as ruling against a copyright claimant who may be legitimate, even though most of the time they're not. It's a really unfortunate situation, and I honestly think it's broken and it can't be fixed.
You're right. That's depressing. So let's move on to our third story. What you got for that?
Well, I have a religious debate for you.
Go for it.
The big question being presented this week is, are ISO ratings in cameras totally faked? A professional photographer named Tony Northrup took to YouTube this week to make the case that camera ISO ratings are completely fake. They're just made up. He says that today's digital image sensors are largely ISO agnostic, and you can just adjust your lower ISO image in post up to 5 stops, even when it's completely in darkened light, and it will look nearly identical to something that's shot at a higher ISO. He also says that camera ISO ratings are wildly all over the place, not only from manufacturer to manufacturer, but sometimes from model to model inside of a manufacturer. So it's a very compelling case on YouTube about it, and it's starting to cause photographers to really debate it online. I do think that it is worth talking about, and it's something that camera companies could largely solve by just being more transparent in how they give us these ISO ratings. They just don't tell us, they just make it up.
What other stories are you working on for this week?
Well, other stories we're following this week include Adobe fixes audio issues in a Premiere that could cause speakers in your MacBook Pro to blow out. Are action cameras hitting a feature plateau? And we have great new hardware and software reviews as well.